Go ahead.
Okay, so today's block of the month class was supposed to be on the quarter circle block, and you guys have already been doing curves and quarter circle curves, so this should be pretty easy. I just wanted to give you the measurements. The block has 4 quarter circles with the 4 outer parts, corners, to finish the block. The block finishes at 12 inches. That means that we will trim it to 12.5 inches in both directions so that when we sew it into the quilt, it'll have a finished size of 12 inches. So we will eventually trim it to this 12-inch block, and we'll center it right here, and we'll trim away anything extra. I made the block about 2 inches too large just to kind of give myself some extra room to work with here. But anyway, you remember the techniques for cutting. I used the OmniArc circular quarter circle ruler to cut. And we have to cut 2 different sizes, one size for the circle and one size for the corner. And notice if I push them together like this, it looks like the corner is actually smaller, and that's to allow for the seam allowance. So this one, I'm going to just lay this one over this just so you can see. Do you need me to move this over?
Mm-mm.
I'll just slide these out of the way. I'm going to square this up right here at the center of this cutting mat here. And I've already squared up these edges. And so for the quarter circle block, what I did is I used the corner of the ruler and the black lines to align with the edges of the yellow fabric. Okay, and then I cut the quarter circle at 6 inches. So I'm going to take this out and show you a little bit closer. I'm just going to use these black lines here to align the edges of the fabric. This is 2 layers because I needed 2 of them. So I fold it in half. I'm going to cut 2 at a time. And then I just take my OmniArc ruler and I'll cut my 2 yellow corners there. Okay? I'm not going to cut it because I already did. But you just want to line it up at the corner mark of the ruler and use the 6-inch line for the quarter circle. That part's easy. The next part we need to cut is the outside corners of these quarter circle blocks. And to do that, I'm going to again line it up to the center of my cutting mat just so you can get an idea. And this one I should have done out of a different fabric here. But this one you cut a little bit smaller, about a half. I went a 1/2 inch down on either side to allow for the all I did was let me find the cut here. Actually, let me move the fabric and just line up the ruler on this fabric so I think you can see that better. So I'm going to use this cutting line on my mat, and you'll see right where I cut it, I still use the 6-inch line, and I just moved it out 1.5 inches in this direction and 1.5 inches in this direction. So my ruler is overhanging the corner sidelines. I actually just, if it's on the black line, it'll be on 7 here, 0 all the way down to here, 7 here, and then I guess this is 90 degrees all the way here, and this is 0 degrees. So I'm actually, from how I cut the quarter circle, I'm only going to move it a 1/2 inch in both directions. I'm going to move it a 1/2 inch to the left and a 1/2 inch down. So here we go, a 1/2 inch to the left. I'm bringing it from 7 down to 6.5, and a 1/2 inch down. I'm going from 7 down to 6.5 here. So now both edges are going to be 6.5 inches. And now I go ahead and cut on my 6-inch line again. I used the same curve. And then I just slid this up a little bit and cut the rest of the corner block, giving myself some extra. Now I messed up a little bit there, but I still sewed it and it was fine. And when we take this over to the sewing machine, I like to put this face up, and then this is right sides together here. And we're going to start these two edges even, and then we'll drop our needle there and begin to sew a 1/4 inch, and we'll just keep realigning the edges as we sew. You can put a pin in the middle, 1 or 2 pins, but you shouldn't even need pins anymore. And this just kind of flops around. We'll get our nice 1/4 inch, we'll flip it over, and we'll press it. Once you have all 4 quarter circles sewn together, then you would sew the 2 together, maybe top and bottom or left and right, whatever you want. I did top and bottom, but let's just assume that these have been stitched already. So I will sew these here and these here. You can press the seams alternately. When you sew them together, you want to make sure you line up the seams at the circles here so that they line up. And then once you have these 2 sewn together and these 2 sewn together, then we'll bring them right sides together. Again, we'll be careful to line up our seam here on the edge of the circle, our middle point, and our seam here at this end of the circle. And you can ease as necessary and sew that up, and you'll have a completed block. After you've completed it, you can use your 12.5 inch ruler to center your block and to trim it to 12.5 inch square. It's really simple. You shouldn't have any more than